All right. Good afternoon. So thank you for joining in this session. My name is Josh Ndemenge, and I'm a cloud developer advocate at Microsoft for the data advocacy team. And I'm going to spend the next 40 minutes talking to you about Microsoft Fabric, which is a data analytics platform, but not from the sense of from the view of data professionals, but from the perspective of a developer. So we're going to explore how this platform empowers developers, how you as a developer will be able to leverage this, for data ops or basically for integrating with normal day-to-day data operations. Now, before I get started, just by a quick show of hands, how many of us have heard about Microsoft Fabric? Oh, okay, that's a good number. And so just a quick recap on what Microsoft Fabric is. So when you think about Microsoft Fabric, it's a data analytics platform, end-to-end. So it has all these different workloads for your data needs, everything you need to build your complete end-to-end data solutions. So you have tools for data integration. So you have Data Factory that allows you to integrate with wherever your data could be seated. We have over 180 different connectors. So that means it can connect to virtually anywhere your data is seated. We have analytics workloads that allow developers to build data solutions, with Spark tools. So here we have things like data engineering tools, data science tools, data warehousing tools. We even have databases where we have actual operational databases running in the platform natively. So right now we have support for Azure SQL, we have support for Cosmos DB, and these are full-fledged operational DBs running on the platform natively, integrating with all these different workloads. When we think about data, you don't just think of data at rest. You also have data in motion, or in that case, real-time data. And so we have real-time intelligence workload that allows you to ingest, work with real-time data, transform real-time data, and react on top of that real-time data. Because in some instances, you want to actually react on top of this, so send alerts, detect anomalies on top of your real-time data. And if you want to work with your business users who use business tools like PowerPoint, Excel, SharePoint, Power BI becomes your tool for integrating to where your business users actually reside. And so that's Microsoft Fabric in a nutshell. So it's a complete analytics end-to-end data solution for building literally any data, for solving any particular data need. And when you think about the platform, it's secure. You have this unified tools like AI that is well integrated into the platform, one lake for unified storage and also unified governance. But I'm not here today to talk so much about Microsoft Fabric. I really want to look at this now from a developer's perspective. I need to extend this display. So. Like that. Okay. Yep. So what I want to focus on today on Microsoft Fabric, I really want to focus it from a developer's point of view. So when you think about Microsoft Fabric and you think about, as I mentioned, it allows you to build these end-to-end data solutions. But from a developer's perspective, developers, they already have these existing processes in terms of how they build, their engineering solutions. So, they use CI/CD, they use, tools for continuous integration and continuous deployment. And so we really try bringing that, or rather bridging that gap between analytics solutions, because so many analytics solutions, they'll just offer you with tools to do analytics, but they really forget the actual development lifecycle that most developers are actually used to. And so that's what I'm going to focus on. So I'm going to explore the different tools that exist to allow developer processes or the development lifecycle to make it much easier for developers. Now, when you think about any development lifecycle, the first things that comes into mind, or for most developer tools, just apart from writing code, apart from building solutions, they do have these tools that allow for things like automation. And so on this platform, we do try support developers by providing tools for automation. And so you can see from this slide, we have different tools for automation, and also you can be able to see tools that we have that support CI/CD. So for example, you have Git integration natively, and that means you can go ahead, create a workspace for your analytics tools, create your pipelines, create your database projects, go ahead and create maybe Power BI reports, but you can be able to check out into a different branch and work off that branch. So you can be able to organize your projects, just apart from organizing them with workspaces, you can organize them in the same way you do with your Git repository. So you can have different branches, like for example, you could have feature branches, you could have your dev branches, you could have your production branches, and then you can be able to create pipelines that actually deploy across these different stages. Now, when I start talking about pipelines and you start thinking, okay, maybe like for example, when I'm working on my dev or test branch or stage, I could be working with just a very small subset of data. But when I get to production, I need to be working with the actual data that is coming in from various sources. And so we have also other tools like that is called a variable library that is going to allow you to specify various variables across the different stages of your development life cycle. The other thing we offer you are REST APIs, because for developers, you can interact with the platform using the UI. So you can go ahead and create all these tools, all these workloads from the UI, but we provide you with public APIs as well that can help you automate these processes. So for example, if you wanted to automate the whole process of deploying a workspace with different workloads, we have APIs that can allow you to do that. For example, if you wanted to monitor pipelines that are actually running, you can be able to use these public APIs to do things like that. And you'll find almost all the Fabric items, they have these public APIs that you can be able to tap into. We also have the Fabric CLI, because sometimes you just want to work directly from the CLI. If you want to create a new item, you do not want it might be much easier, much faster to work directly with the CLI. And nowadays, almost everything has an MCP. So we also have an MCP server that also allows you to interact with the API using natural language, using LLMs, but also beyond that, you're able to define some of the contents of the different items you're creating. We also have the deployment pipelines you can use that you can also use. And finally, we also provide SDKs that wrap these APIs, and you can be able to use these SDKs in your own project. So currently, we have a C# SDK and also a Python SDK. Now, let's start with Git integration. Now, when you think about Git integration in an analytics product, what happens is you can be able to set each of the various workspaces inside of Microsoft Fabric and connect them to a particular Git repository. And what that means, and not just connecting to a particular repository, you can set the repository it connects to and also the branch it works to. And hopefully, if time allows, I'm going to do a quick demo just to show you all of this. And you'll find that we have over 80% coverage of all the items in Fabric. They actually support Git integration. That means you can create a Power BI report, and it has support for Git integration. And how this works, you have a two-way sync. So if you go ahead and make changes directly from the workspace, you can be able to commit those changes and push them to your you can commit them to source control. But also, on the other hand, you can be able to clone your repo, make changes maybe in VS Code, push that, and those changes are going to be pulled. And you can go ahead and pull those changes directly again from the workspace. Now, I'm going to show you a quick demo in terms of how that works. But as I mentioned, we have all these different public APIs that allow you to interact with different items within the platform, and that means also you can be able to automate the Git integration using the Fabric APIs as well. So when you're building your pipelines or when you're building your workflows on DevOps on GitHub, you can be able to integrate or tap into the automation of Git automation using the public APIs. The other thing, as I had alluded to, variable libraries, you can be able to configure or set up these different variable libraries for different environments, for different stages in your development pipeline, and you can be able to use these particular variable libraries, not only in your deployment pipelines, but you can use them in your notebook. So suppose you have a notebook maybe in your dev stage, and you have the same notebook in your production stage or in your test stage, and each of these notebooks, they need to access to different kinds of data or different kinds of data sources. You can be able to set these variable libraries, and these variable libraries, they can change depending on which stage you are within. You're within your pipeline stage, and you have a centralized way to manage all of these different variable libraries. So you can be able to create a new item type for variable libraries, and you can be able to define all your different variable libraries and how they actually change across all the various environments in your deployment stage. The other thing, as I had mentioned, is the Fabric CLI, and you can be able to use this CLI directly from your terminal. If you're a Windows user, you'll find that the commands are so much the same as the commands you have in PowerShell. If you're a Mac or Linux user, you'll find the style of the commands is more Unix based. So you have things like Fabric ls and your Fab ls, and you can be able to list the contents maybe in a workspace. You can use the mkdir to create a new item in a workspace, and so you are able to automate items directly from your terminal, or you can even integrate these in your deployment script. So maybe you want to create new items. You can automate these directly using the CLI. The other thing, the CLI is open source, and so you can be able to actually see how this is changing, or even contribute to the CLI directly from GitHub, and you can be able to see the link to that. Then, as I had mentioned, we have the MCP. So the Fabric MCP is going to help you integrate, or rather interact with the APIs using natural language, but also beyond that, you have a simplified way for code generation. So for example, you're creating a new notebook, and you can be able to use this MCP to create a new notebook directly in the workspace, and even define the contents of that particular workbook. You have the MCP server has access to docs, so it's able to work directly with the docs that you actually have with the official Microsoft docs for Microsoft Fabric. It has knowledge of the schema context for the different items you're creating inside Microsoft Fabric. So I think the easiest way from here is just to show you how all of these tools can come together and make life sort of easier when you're working with Microsoft Fabric, and especially with your data project. So I'm gonna switch over to my browser here, and I might just zoom in just a little bit. Yeah, I think that's much better. And what you'll notice here is, it's going to minimize that. What you're going to notice, okay. So, okay, I think that's it. So here I'm on the browser, and I have this workspace here. So I have this workspace called Vox Thessaloniki demos, and you can see inside here I have a simple notebook. I have a lakehouse, and if I open the lakehouse, you can see it has just some few tables, and I have several notebooks for doing some basic data transformation. And what you're going to see is I also have this GitHub repository here, and on the main branch I have an empty folder here called infra/fabric. As you can see, it's empty. But I also have a different branch called data/dev. And you can see inside this branch, I have some of the items coming in. So for example, you can see I have a lakehouse, I have the notebook, and I have the two notebooks coming here. And so if I go back to Fabric and switch over to my workspace, directly here from the workspace, you can see in the workspace settings, under Git integration, I have connected to my GitHub repo. So I've just provided the URL to the repository, and I also have provided the branch that I want this workspace to actually connect to. And it's as easy as that. And you can either use GitHub or you can use Azure DevOps. And so this is the only thing you need to do. You just point it to the actual repository, select the branch that you need, and that's it. And if I make any changes inside of this workspace, if I make any changes, like for example, if I was to come here and possibly let's create a new pipeline. If I go ahead and create a new pipeline here, and I'm just going to create pipeline and just call it pipeline. If I create, now I have a new item created in this workspace. I'll have the option to go ahead and commit changes inside my workspace. So if I go back to my workspace right here, if I go back to my workspace here, you can see it says I have one change that I've actually made that I've not committed. And I can easily go ahead and commit this change. I can say I just add pipeline. I can go ahead and make changes. And you can see this is an analytics platform, but it caters to any developer's needs. And once I commit that, if I can switch over to my terminal here, and I can just come and do like a git pull. And just you can be able to see all those changes will be pulled. And if I need to if I need to make any changes, so let's. Oh, I don't know whether I synced the branch. Just let's see. Git pull. No. Okay. Instead of changing the configurations locally, I'm just gonna make the change. Just refresh here, and you can see the pipeline is actually pushed directly to GitHub. Now that means you and your teams can be able to collaborate directly from the same repository, make changes, or if you wanted to create a new workspace, you can create a new workspace, connect to this repository, and make changes directly to your new workspace. That's the first thing. But the other thing is, I talked about pipelines. And so one of the things you're going to notice is here I have other workspaces. So this is my dev workspace. I have a prod and a test workspace. And if I switch over to the deployment pipelines, you can see I had created one pipeline beforehand, and I can be able to add various stages to these deployment pipelines. So let's zoom out here just a little bit. And one of the things you'll see is I have this particular deployment pipeline. I have the dev stage, the test stage, and the production stage. And each of these stages is connected to a particular workspace. So for example, the dev stage is connected to the dev workspace, the test stage is connected to the test workspace, and similarly to the production workspace. And so I can be able to create a pipeline here. I can automate, and so when new changes are merged into the dev branch, for example, I can automate this pipeline to be triggered using the public APIs we mentioned, and those changes are going to be propagated, all deployed across the different stages. The other thing you can also do using the source control or Git integration within the same workspace. I'm going to switch over to my dev workspace, and here I can switch over. I can switch over. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit so that you can see the icons I need. So what I can do beyond that, here under source control, I can switch, and I can see I'm on a current branch, and I can branch out to a new workspace. So suppose I want to work on a new feature, I can easily branch out to a new workspace, and I can call these maybe, I can call the branch name data/feature/1, and I can give this workspace a name. So let's call these just demo feature. And if I have an existing workspace, I can do that. But now I'm branching out to a new workspace, and I want to start adding new features. So maybe I want to add some new notebooks. I want to do some further transformations, but I don't want to work directly from the same workspaces that my team is working on. So I can easily branch out to a new workspace. And what that is going to do, it's going to create a new Git branch, but also it's going to copy all the various artifacts that I had from, now this one is based on the data/dev branch. It's going to go branch out, create a new workspace, and copy all of those various items directly into this new workspace. So you see, it goes ahead and creates a new workspace. It's going to sync and create a new branch on GitHub. So if I switch over to GitHub, you're going to see it's going to go ahead and create a new branch right there. And the other thing, it's going to start copying the different items that I actually need. Now, at this point, let's switch over to the CLI and just see what we can do with the Fabric CLI. So I already have the CLI installed, and the first thing I can do is I can do fab. So if you haven't logged in, you just need to do fab auth login, and that's it. It's going to prompt you to sign in and sign in with an interactive browser, but I'm already signed in. So the other thing I can do is maybe fab ls, and then maybe I can specify the workspace. So remember, I have this workspace named the Vox Thessaloniki demos. So if I run that, it's going to list for me all the various items that I have in this particular workspace. Now we've created a new workspace. Let's see if it's completed copying all the items from the previous one, and you can see it's in this particular branch. So I'm going to copy this name, and if I come back here, I can easily do now fab create, and then I can provide. Let me just easily change this. So I can provide the name of the workspace. So the name of the workspace right now is demo fit, and then I can specify I want to create a new GraphQL API item inside here. So just like that. And maybe you want to create a new warehouse. You could have just done fab create the name of your workspace / the name of the warehouse you want, and then the item type, which is a workspace. And so this is going to go ahead and create a new GraphQL endpoint directly here. And so, and you can see there comes the GraphQL API endpoint. So I can start creating items directly from my terminal. And you can see how easy this can be if you need to integrate it into your development workflows. You can easily manage all your different item types directly from the terminal. All right, switch back to the presentation. So that's the first thing when it comes to developer automation. We have the CLI, we have the MCP, and we have the pipelines that you can be able to use, and also the integration with CI/CD. The other thing that we offer are these public APIs, and I'm just going to skim very fast through these and developer SDKs, because you have these public APIs that can allow you to manage all the different item types. So over 80% of all the items that are supported in Fabric, you have access to their public APIs, and you can use these APIs to actually automate the different activities that you're working with. So almost everything that you can do from the UI, you have a public API that you can actually use to automate some of these processes. That means you're able to create maybe custom applications, custom integrations to the actual items that are actually running inside of Microsoft Fabric. The other thing is the Fabric Extensibility Toolkit. And now for developers, this means you're able to start building your own custom applications as native workloads inside of Microsoft Fabric. So if you remember the first slide, I showed you the native workloads we have in Fabric: Data Factory, and the analytics, real-time intelligence. The Fabric Extensibility Toolkit allows you to bring your own applications. So you can start building your own applications as a developer for Microsoft Fabric. And the applications you build using the Extensibility Toolkit, they have a deep integration with all the other tools and services inside of Microsoft Fabric. So if it's about storage, all workloads use OneLake as their native data store. So even your own custom applications that you actually build using the Extensibility Toolkit, they'll have the ability to store and integrate directly with OneLake for storage. You have the ability to integrate with Copilot, and to make even your work easier, we have integration with Copilot that allows you to start building or give you a head start when you're trying to build these applications, and you're able to use some of the UI elements. So like, for example, the create new item dialog, some of the dialogues that we use, like creating new items, you're able to reuse these while you're creating your native applications into Microsoft Fabric. The other thing that we offer for developers is the Fabric API for GraphQL. Now, what that means, with Microsoft Fabric, you're able to bring all of these different data sources. So you can create shortcuts maybe to different clouds, to on-prem data. You can create data from various shortcuts. So you have various ways of bringing data into Microsoft Fabric. And so you can think of the various data sources you've brought, but again, you might need, for one reason or the other, you might need to expose some of this data for use in your own applications. And so what Microsoft Fabric allows you to do is having this API for GraphQL. And now, this is going to allow you to unify all your various data sources in one GraphQL schema, and you can be able to define relationships across your schema. And then you can be able to copy this one URL and share it with your developers, and they can start building applications and making one single query against your GraphQL API. Now, why is this important? One, developers previously or traditionally, because of the very different or disparate data sources that they could be having in Microsoft Fabric, they could previously just need to do multiple queries, or they could need to make multiple API calls. But with this, you can just have Microsoft, the GraphQL API, and with these, you're able to specify, okay, I need a particular column, I just need data from the following particular columns, and that's the exact data that is going to be returned. You also have the ability to monitor the requests that are hitting your endpoint. And so you're able to troubleshoot the different API requests that are coming to your GraphQL endpoint. Now, I'm going to finish the slides, and then I'm going to do a quick demo for the Fabric API for GraphQL in the interest of time. Now, the other thing is for developers is data agents. Now, with Fabric being a central repository for all your data, and you have data coming from different sources. As I mentioned, you could be bringing data from different clouds. You could be bringing data from SaaS applications. You could be mirroring data from operational databases. You have your data velocity or your central repository for your data inside of Microsoft Fabric, and you would want to build some sort of data agent or some sort of AI agent that has knowledge about your data sources, and that is your resident data expert based on the data that you have inside of Microsoft Fabric. And so we make it as easy as possible for developers to get started with building data agents directly from within Microsoft Fabric, and we do this through data agents. So a data agent is going to be your conversational agent that allows you to interact with all of the data that you have in your inside of Microsoft Fabric using natural language. And so you're able to have a conversation about your data that is inside of Microsoft Fabric, and this agent has context over the data that you have. So you could be having your real-time data, you could be having your data coming from your operational databases, you could be having data from your warehouses, but this AI agent is going to have is going to be sort of your resident data expert based on the data that you actually have inside of Microsoft Fabric. And the process of creating these agents, we've tried simplifying it as much as possible. So for someone who's really getting started, for a developer who's just getting started with building these data agents, we've tried simplifying the process so we have a complete no-code experience. But if you also want to go the pro-code experience, and I'm going to talk about that shortly, that is also possible. So to create a data agent, it's as simple as just creating a new item type of a data agent, and then you select the different data sources. So for example, maybe you want to create a data agent that is an expert on your sales data. So you're going to select all your sales data. This could be various tables from your lake houses, from your warehouses. Maybe you have data from your event houses. You have Power BI reports, so maybe you have your semantic models. You configure all the different tables that you actually want your data expert, your data agent to have access to. Then from there, you start the configuration process. Now, what does the configuration process include? The configuration process is going to include you setting custom instructions. For example, you're able to tell it, okay, if someone asks you about a busy month For us, the busy month is normally October. So you start doing your configuration in natural language. So you set those sort of custom rules or custom configurations in natural language. And then once you do that, you can iterate through the whole process by asking custom questions and seeing how it responds. You're able to even give it sample questions and even specifying, okay, if you are faced with this kind of question, use this data set to actually respond. So you're able to start doing that kind of configuration, iterate on top of that, and then go ahead and publish your data agents. Once you've published, remember you're publishing this inside of Microsoft Fabric, you would want your end users to actually be able to consume your agent. And so you can do this directly. Consumption can be done directly from within Microsoft Fabric. Consumption, you can publish these to tools like AI Foundry, access through REST, which we are actively working on, or even tools like Copilot Studio. But if you integrate it with things like AI Foundry, developers who are actually building multi-agent systems, they can be able to start using your data agent in their own applications. And so this allows you to easily expose the data that you have inside of Microsoft Fabric for use in other agentic applications. Now, the other thing, again, for developers, it wouldn't end just right there with just providing you with the interface for building the data agent. We provide also the data agent SDK. And now here, you're able to do this directly from code. So one, you're able to create and configure your data agents in a more automated fashion. But beyond doing that, you're also able to test and evaluate these data agents. So you could be having your ground source truth data sets, and you can be able to use these data sets to actually test and evaluate how your data agent is actually performing. But beyond that, you're also able to tune different prompts and also benchmark how your data agent is improving with time. So you also have the actual SDK that you can actually use in the notebooks for your data agent. So I'm going to switch back to the browser and do a quick demo for how you will be able to create these data agents and also the GraphQL API. So let's switch over to the browser here. Okay. So I'm right here, and so I'm going to use this item that we created from the CLI, the GraphQL API, and I'm going to open these. And so with the GraphQL API, as I mentioned, you're able to aggregate your different data sources, define your schema, define relationships across your data, and then you can create a single endpoint that developers can be able to use in their applications and consume the data that you actually have here. And so to do this, it's as easy. I just need to select my data sources. And here you can see for this particular tenant, I only have a few data sources, but I have this lakehouse from our dev workspace, but I also have a lakehouse from our feature workspace. So I'm going to select the one from the dev workspace. But if I had different data sources, maybe I had some data warehouses from different sources, or I have some operational databases. Now, one of the things you'll notice is if I had like an operational DB, like Cosmos, I could just also be able to use the SQL endpoint directly from that Cosmos database and use it here when creating my GraphQL. And so I'm going to connect to that. And here, once I select my data source, the next thing is going to be, I need to select which actual tables. I might not want to create, to use all the tables directly from my source. So for example, here I can just select the products, and let's select products and product categories and just load. So, but I can select multiple tables. And once I do that, now I already have the different tables. From here, I can start doing things like, editing the relationships. So for example, I can easily manage relationships and I can create a new relationship. So for example, a one-to-many. So one category can have different products. And so this should be category ID. So I can start defining these sorts of relationships. And you can imagine if I'm having data sources coming from data coming from various sources, it's as easy. I just need to go ahead, bring in the other data source and do the same, define relationships. And then once I've done that, I can easily copy this endpoint and developers can use this particular endpoint to work, or rather to query data using GraphQL directly using that one single endpoint. The other thing I need to show maybe will be the data agents. As I mentioned, it's easy to create a data agent as well. So to create a data agent, it will be as easy as, not create app, but I would easily create a new item, and it's as easy as just providing it a name, data agent. I just need to select data agent. I just need to give it a name. Once I'm going to call this agent 1. Once I provide a name, the same process is going to be the same. I just need to select my data sources. Once I select my data sources, and then start the whole configuration process. So again, I can select the different data sources. Here I can use, for example, my lakehouse. If I had different data sources like semantic models, event houses, I could be able to do that and connect my data sources here. So that's bringing in the data sources. And just to mention one thing about these data agents as it's configuring here. For example, if I bring in a lake house, or I bring in a warehouse, and then I bring in an event house. If I need to query an event house, I need to use KQL. If I need to query a warehouse, I need to write T-SQL. If I need to query maybe semantic model, I need to use DAX. The thing is, with a data agent, we have these tools where if you ask a question and it realizes I need to use a semantic model for this, it's going to actually write DAX. If it realizes I need to use an event house for this, it's going to write KQL query. If it realizes I need to use a warehouse, it's going to write the T-SQL. And if for some reason the final answer needs to be combined across these different sources, it's going to execute those individual queries and then figure out what relationships might exist against them and use that to give you your final answer. Now, for example, I've brought in my data source here. I can start asking questions, and you can see it even suggests some sample questions directly here. But the configuration step I was talking about, I can come here and start adding configuration. So for example, I can use it to test the responses, but I can come here and provide sample or rather iterate. The way I was saying, like for example, for me, the busy month is October. I can come here and start doing that sort of configuration. Now, in interest of time, because I see time is running, so just to get to the end of this. So one of the things, just a few more things about when we think about developer productivity when using the tool, is one of the things we're improving is to ensure that the platform is evolving to become more developer friendly. So apart from the tools that are specifically focused to developers as well, we're also making the interface developer friendly, like your modern IDE. So you have these tabbed horizontal tabs that you can easily switch between. So between the different items you have. So maybe you open a lake house, you open a data warehouse, you open a notebook. Those are arranged horizontally in tabs, and they're different colored based on the different workspaces that you're actually working in. And so that's it. That's it about Microsoft Fabric and how we are evolving the platform to become more developer friendly, and how you can use it to automate data processes from a developer's perspective. So I'm going to pause there and ask if we have any questions for the remaining 2 minutes.
Are there any questions? No one? I think you covered everything perfectly.
All right. Thank you for joining in.